Good morning. Welcome to Hometown Heroes. This is Rick Irving with my co host Mary Staffeld. And today, this is like the year end show for Hometown Heroes podcast. So we got a lot of things to talk about. We're going to take off the next two Tuesdays because next Tuesday is Christmas Eve day. And then the following Tuesday, of course, is New Year's Eve day. So we'll be back on the 7th. So good morning, Mary.
Good morning, Rick.
How are you today?
Good. It's been a busy few weeks.
It has surely been a lot of things going on, hadn't there?
It has. I'm looking forward to next week when I get past all the Christmas hysteria on top of it, so that I can get back to some semblance of normalcy.
But this has been a good year.
It has.
Not just for the podcast, we had some incredible guests on, but also for all the organizations that we are involved in. Of course, roll call. Roll call is rolling along good.
It is.
We kind of got displaced in the middle of the year uh, because of some construction going on at our place that we've been for so many years, Birchman Baptist Church. But Brother Bob, he was real quick at finding us another place to meet, and we're meeting at Willow Park Baptist Church in Willow Park, Texas, which is just in between Weatherford and Fort Worth. So we have a little farther to go. The people live in the Fort Worth part of the Metroplex, but the people that live in Aledo and Weatherford, it's right at their doorstep. So
Yeah, they're loving it.
and it's a very nice place. I just really I like the openness and atrium and things. So
Yeah.
that's a great place to meet, and we look forward to being back at Birchman after they finish all the renovations. So
Yeah, the benefit there at Willow Park being that to your point, that lobby being so wide open, it has afforded us the opportunity to bring some other groups out, some veteran service organizations. A lot of times, even roll call members will come to me and say, "Oh, you should have so and so come and speak." And when I ask what they would talk about, they're basically talking about some service that they offer, but they're a for-profit organization. And we used to allow a lot of people to get up on the stage and talk. And we felt like it started to get to be like one just big infomercial at our luncheon. And so we made the decision as a board a few years ago that, we would have the veteran come up and speak. That was our speaker for the day. But unless it was now, if it's a sponsor, we'll give them a few minutes to come up on stage and talk about what they offer and why they're sponsoring roll call. But unless they're a veteran service organization, we've really shied away from having them get up there because we don't want folks using the luncheon as an opportunity to sell their services or their business or their products. But what we have enjoyed at Willow Park is with that openness, we can have folks like the equine therapy and the doggone, some of the other names are escaping me, the vet center, just folks like that are veteran service organizations that are simply there. They're not asking to get up on stage and take the time of the folks, but they're there if they want to ask them questions about what they offer. And these are services offered to the veterans at no expense. So it is a really, really important thing to be able to do that. And now once we get back to, even with the renovation, I don't know that we'll have that much space, but I think there will be more space than we had in the past out there in the lobby. So we hope to be able to continue that, but it is really important to us to highlight some of the services that are offered to our veterans at no cost to them. Because, as we all know, a lot of our veterans are living on their Social Security, and depending on if they retired from the military or not. And believe it or not, a military retirement check is not all that big. So, really, even with retirement and Social Security in today's economic times, it's still pretty hard to make ends meet. So unless they retired and did it well, they need the services, they need the opportunities because that fixed income doesn't go as far as it did. So it's always great when we can highlight folks that are there to offer something to the veterans that costs them nothing.
And one of the great organizations out there that we refer a lot of our veterans to is Combined Arms.
Yes.
And man, they could plug you in just anywhere. They've got all the resources there. Great group of people, and they've taken care of a lot of our roll call veterans. And there's some organizations that don't really aren't just veteran related organizations, but they do help our veterans, like Servolution.
Right.
They've been real helpful in doing some renovations and things to houses, building ramps and things like that for our veterans in the area that they work in. So that was a real good connection to make a couple of years ago, right after we first started the podcast. We had them on and learned more about them, and it's just great organizations like that really reach out and touch our veterans. Larry O'Neill, Fort Worth Memories, he called me just a few minutes ago and said, hey, if there's any veterans that need a Christmas tree, the Optimist Club has a Christmas tree lot down at the corner of 7th Street, Lancaster and University Drive, right there on the west side of Farrington Field. And they closed up yesterday, but they had about 80 Christmas trees left. Larry put the word out yesterday. There about 50 Christmas trees have been picked up. He said they called this morning. There's still about 30, and those, it's first come, first serve. And these Christmas trees are live, they are cut down, but
Right.
they run $150. So
the Optimist Club always has some of the best Christmas trees.
And they're beautiful Christmas trees. Larry's got one down there at the Fort Worth Memories Museum, and that's just one of those spur of the moment opportunities. And if you get there, and the Christmas trees are
today, I have the feeling they'll be gone if there was only 30 left.
Today. But it might be worth the drive if you're in the live Christmas trees. So.
Yeah.
And Larry O'Neill, he's been so good to us over the years. He's the one that kind of planted the seed for Hometown Heroes, and we were able to do our podcast from there for a year before we went to the format we have now. But he had his bike giveaway Saturday and gave away over 1,100 bicycles. I mean, and this, you don't fill out any paperwork. You just get in line, one bike to car per vehicle. They had toys out there, a great group of volunteers. And we had the current mayor, Mayor Maddie Parker. We had the former mayor, Betsy Price, and the former mayor before her, Mike Moncrief. And then Brooke Rolland, she was there early at 6:30. She is the nominee for the Secretary of Agriculture, and she's a Glen Rose native, and I think she's going to be the first Secretary of Agriculture that has ever gone through the FAA program, the Future Farmers of America program. And I got to visit with her and hear some of the exciting things that they have planned. But Larry, he he became a 501c3 this year, and he's been giving away 500 or 600 bikes a year. But this, with the help of his board and his megaphone that he's got, with all the social media, able to give away a lot more bicycles. So a big shout out to Larry and that organization. You talk about being busy. Saturday I went there. Left at 9:30, went to Pioneers Rest Cemetery, the oldest cemetery in Fort Worth, for Wreaths Across America. And the ladies with the Mary Isham, I forgot the the last name, but with the DAR, they work really close with the cemetery and on the board of the Cemetery Association. And there we put out about 200 wreaths. So not a big crowd. plenty of wreaths for everybody. It's not like going to the National Cemetery. We had Larry Allen on a few weeks ago talking about wreaths across America, and they put out over 50,000 wreaths. I never have been to the National Cemetery for wreaths across America, but that sounds like a lot of wreaths. But
That is a lot of wreaths.
they have tens of thousands of people that show up. And then our friend Kathy Hanlon down at the Elizabeth Crockett chapter of the DAR, they at the Acton Cemetery where Davy Crockett's wife's buried, Elizabeth Crockett, uh, they do Wreaths Across America. I know a lot of roll call members were down there, so just a lot of ways that the wreaths go on the veterans' graves, so they remember them, and whenever they lay the wreath, they say the name of that veteran. So
Right.
we're always remembered, and don't forget those veterans. So
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. I saw a picture of you and Brooke Rollins because one of our loyal roll call members always sends me messages and pictures, Kenny, and he always puts SP5 Rick, SP5 Rick,
I
and
saw Kenny yesterday. So
yeah, he he's one of those guys that he's a Vietnam veteran. And he really, we talked one time and he said, I really have no family here. And so the folks here are my family. And so that's a big part of the reason that he gets out and does whatever he can when he can, because he just really wants to be involved and around people. He's such a people person, but
he
when
is.
somebody to go visit a veteran, or to do something, or somebody needs a ride, or whatever the case might be, Kenny's the first one to raise his hand and be there. We needed somebody to go visit a veteran in his home. We needed someone to go do a hospice visit. First one. And he's only been a member of Roll Call less than a year, but he he's just one of those folks that really wants to be involved. But yeah, first thing I was finishing my walk. I think I had Bill Kelly's funeral on Saturday, and so I didn't get to participate in some other things I wanted to do. But it was really important to me to be present. Bill was Army Air Corps, and he was a B-17 navigator, I think is what he was, if I remember right. And he really he wanted to be first in the fight, and so he joined up and wanted to be a pilot. But they said you can get in the action quicker if you become a navigator. And he said, "Sign me up." His goal was to live to 110, and on his 104th birthday in September, he was still able to do. He was getting up and around. He uses a cane. It just nobody saw it coming, and that's a life well lived. He lived, and when it was time, he just went, and he didn't go slowly, and it just he lived a good life. So it was something that was really important to me to be there for him and for his family. So there were several roll call folks that were there to celebrate Bill's life.
He lived a good life and he stayed active. I mean, he was
Active.
everywhere. We were able to take him to the Ranger game several times,
Yep.
and I think you took him. Did you take him, or somebody took him with Lockheed once? Did he? Is he the ones that got to go, or?
I think somebody else. I didn't take him,
Okay.
but yeah, and he'd been to the rodeo with Lorna, and he went to Normandy. So in May, he went to Normandy with Joe. Joe Floyd really escorted him around everywhere. I tried to get him to go be recognized at the Ranger game with the Lockheed group that we do the last couple of years, but I couldn't get him to go on that one. So I tried really, really hard because it was important to do it right around his birthday. So I picked a game that was right around his 104th birthday, but his family just didn't want him to go out and do that. But they're really special people, and you get to hear their stories, and sometimes we don't hear them until after they're gone. So important reason to if you're around any veterans, they've got stories. You just got to get them to tell you the stories and let them.
Even the younger veterans, you
Even
know.
all veterans have some. Everybody has a story, and every story matters. And just ask them questions. Tell me about what you did. You'll be amazed. I was amazed at these guys and their bronze stars and their silver stars, and they never talk about that stuff. But you have to take the time to ask questions and be engaged, and they'll talk, but they're not going to just come out and start talking unless you ask them questions, because they're not that kind of people. A lot of veterans don't want to stand up and shout from the rooftops and tell you everything unless you start asking questions.
Yeah, because you see these veterans and you don't know until you hear their story. Bruce Stacy with Fort Worth Air Power Council, he's one of those guys that you just look at him, and you don't know that, he's a Silver Star recipient times two, and he 2 tours in Vietnam, and or just like Tank Gunner, Tank.
Mm-hmm.
That's just one of those fascinating people that we kind of got in contact with somehow, got him on the podcast and heard his story, and he was able to tell it at roll call. And the only person I've ever met that actually witnessed a heroic action that turned out to have the person receive the Medal of Honor, one of his men that got killed in a battle, and several other silver stars, silver bronze stars, just from that one battle.
Yeah.
And to see the person that was in charge of it and hear his story, just a great story, and great American and great Vietnam veteran. So
yeah, that was awesome. And Tank, he's written so many books, and most of them are fiction. And he always says, if somebody wants to learn how to write, I'll be happy to help them. So if you're out there and you're considering writing a book, fiction or nonfiction, because some of his are more about his service, but we can put you in contact with him. He'd be happy to help you navigate writing a book. But he's, I think, written somewhere 13, 14 or so.
And he started when he was 70 years old. So.
Yeah, well, he wasn't a young man when he started.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Amazing people.
But Bill Kelly, 104 years old. We lost him, and we lost Bill McIntyre, also 104 years old, and both magnificent men. Were great to be around. Told stories and had a lot of. Have 104 years of wisdom.
That's a lot of wisdom. And
That's
Bill
a lot.
McIntyre was always funny, because if he's telling to tell you something. But I talked to his daughter in Oklahoma, the one that lives in Oklahoma, yesterday. And she said, I want to make sure I have the information right about roll call, because Dad just loved roll call. And she was like, and roll call started with 15 is what we have, right? And I said, yeah. And he was one of those 15. And he was been a part of roll call since the very first day. He's the reason that, we ended up at Birchman Baptist Church, and I told her, I said, and we always missed his birthday because it's in July. So we miss him when we talk about the veterans' birthdays at the luncheons, because we don't do one in July. And so we made up for that. He got to cut the cake the last 3 years we were out on base. He got to cut the cake out there at the April luncheon. And he just loved it. And, the first year he cut it with a saber. That was a little scary. But oh my goodness. And just another incredible person. And, his job always weighed so heavy on him, because there were so many pilots being shot down in World War II. And he was responsible for making sure that those families back home got paid. And we've had Bill on the show, and he told that story. And that was just one of the things that always weighed heavy on him, was that responsibility of making sure that family got the payment that they needed to get, because now they didn't have their loved one and they probably needed that payment just to get through. But he ended up over in Italy when he finished his service doing the same job, and until they didn't really need him doing that. They needed soldiers. Unfortunately, he said the war ended, because otherwise he'd have been a soldier, because in the Army, you're all infantry, right? Everybody's infantry. Everybody's trained to pick up a gun and go. So he served with so much honor, and he was such a great man. And his services are this weekend. So Thursday night is his visitation at Greenwood, 5 to 7 p.m. And then his funeral is, I believe it's noon. I think that the funeral is noon at Greenwood, and I'd have to check that. It might be 2, but I think it's noon. And his funeral is going to be in Oklahoma. And his daughter was telling me she didn't even realize how much stuff he had done until they started putting together a very lengthy, she said, it's not even going to fit in the program. It's such a lengthy obituary. But he was very instrumental in starting a church there in Oklahoma and all kinds of stuff that she had no idea about and he never talked about. So it's really amazing. I can't wait. She said, well, I look forward to hearing what you think when you read it. So I'll have to definitely find that obituary and read it. But just incredible people we get to meet every day. There's just those silent heroes around you every single day.
Absolutely.
And
there's one picture I took several years ago, and it was up there where Fred's is now. I forgot what the name of the place was then, but we had Fisk Hanley, we had Dwayne Jost, and Bill McIntyre, and B.J. Shepard. And, I looked at that picture often because slowly we lost one, then another. And for about 2 years, Bill McIntyre was the last man in that picture still alive. And, now all those fellows are gone. 6 or 7 years ago, I have another picture of a bigger group of veterans with Carmen Giese and some of the others. And the only person left in that picture is Don Graves.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? He's going to be
It
100
is.
today.
And Don just got back from Pearl Harbor, the 83rd anniversary, I think. Went over there with Tracy Hunter and Liberty Phillips, the Bridge to History, and Tracy's, what's her?
Beyond the Call.
Beyond the Call. Those two organizations, along with a lot of sponsors, Black Rifle Coffee Company, Scott Gibson, the actor from the Pacific, was with them. Looked like they had a great time. Some of the children from Bridge to History, Liberty's organization, accompanied the veterans, and they did all the tourist stuff for Pearl Harbor. Went to the probably Kaneohe Bay Marine Base. I guess that's still what they call it. I don't know if they still call it that or not, but I think they went there, got a tour of the Pearl Harbor, and hopefully they went to Punch Bowl and some of the other places.
So Tracy sent the young people. There were 3 young men with the Bridge to History group that went, and one of them sent her a note, and I'm just going to read this to you, and this will tell you. And we had Liberty on here to talk about Bridge to History and the importance of Bridge to History. And then I know that I wasn't able to stay on the live event you did when you went to the house with all of them. But this is what this young man said. The reason I went to Hawaii was thanks to Liberty, Bridge to History, and Beyond the Call. Bridge to History chose 3 lucky ambassadors to come with them to Hawaii on the 83rd anniversary of the attack of Pearl Harbor. Liberty knew that the 3 ambassadors would love to see where the start of World War II for the American took place. It was an amazing opportunity to spend time getting to know and spend time with the veterans and get to them and hear their stories and experiences during the war. I thought that the USS Utah and the USS Arizona was both a fascinating and unique part of history. The oil still seeping out of the USS Arizona after 83 years is one of the most fascinating parts of the USS Arizona. And one of the most interesting things about the USS Utah is how she still rests on her side as she did after the attack on Pearl Harbor. It was a fascinating time being around the veterans and listening to their stories because they could change how they feel really quickly. Like Don Graves telling his story about when he was fighting in the Pacific. His emotions in and out of the story changed really quickly. I had a lot of fun talking to the veterans and being around the veterans for those couple of days with them. I look at the world a lot differently now. Like I want to start supporting veterans more. And this trip encouraged me to go with my dad to the cemetery where both my great grandfathers are and clean their graves stones so that you could read them and so that they are a lot better looking. So this trip has encouraged me to do more for veterans, not just from World War II, but from all conflicts. That's the kind of impact that you would hope that a program has on young people. So when folks donate to Bridge to History, that's what you're donating for. That's for these young people to learn that. And they have a responsibility when they come back home to share their experiences. How many people, grown people, 60, 70, 80-year-olds, don't know that the Arizona is still leaking oil?
That's what amazed me. I saw it for the first time in about 1978, and I couldn't believe that the oil was still leaking. I've wondered about that. You
Yeah.
know, they must have had a lot of oil on that. I
Yeah.
guess they would have because it was probably ready to go out on a cruise. So,
Yeah, it's crazy to think about that after all those years and all of those people that are still never came off of the ship, and those that did survive the attack, if they want to be buried on that ship, they are cremated and then a diver goes down and places them back on the Arizona. There's just so much history, there's so much there to actually see, and to see these young people walk away with a newfound sense of, I want to learn more and I want to do more for that. It's 1% of the population that serves today. It was more back then, of course, but today it's about 1% of the US population serves in uniform. So it's not a big number, and it wouldn't be a big feat for folks to just, you see a veteran in the store with a cap on, take that extra minute to, and a lot of folks have said, maybe instead of just saying thank you for your service, you say thank you for my freedom, because that's really what they did. Is veterans have given what they could so that everybody in this country has the freedoms they have today. So thank them for your freedom.
absolutely. We do have one comment from Brian Wilburn. He's 12 is his motorcycle name. A friend of ours is on the 99% radio show. But he said that you need to have the Recovery Ranger Corporation with Gabriel Joseph on here. You want a group that does so much for our veterans, including the elderly and homeless. It's RCC. So I'll reach out to you, Brian, and we'll find out more about that. And I just appreciate all you do for our veterans, because you're actively involved in a lot of things to help our veterans. So thank you for being on here today and watching our podcast. But that trip that Don took with those small or young boys, that is going to leave a lasting impression. And Liberty's desire is to have these children that are in her program to be ambassadors, to go tell others about World War II and our heroes. So
Absolutely.
just a great program, and Tracy does a great job doing having the veterans come around, and she's she lives in Hawaii, and then all of a sudden you'll see her at a birthday party for an old veteran or someplace else. So she
Yeah.
spends a lot of time in there.
Yeah, she does. She got to have a lot of miles for
She's
sure.
been a great friend of Roll Call and our veterans for years, as well as Liberty and the whole Phillips family. So,
And we're really blessed to be able to work with so many great groups. It's not a competition. It's a how do we integrate together? And I think when you started the show talking even about combined arms, and again, it's really an integration. I always tell people it's a Texas Veterans Network, aka Combined Arms. And when folks ask me where do you reach out, that's kind of like the belly button for services. Well, then we've got this other group that does things kind of outside of what the Texas Veterans Network does. Whereas they connect folks to resources. So you need some assistance with counseling. They can connect you with groups that do counseling. You need some help with emergency aid to get your electric turned back on or whatever. They'll connect you with folks to do that. You need a ramp built. They'll connect you with Servolution or Cowtown Warriors or any of those other groups that they'll connect you with. So they're kind of like that belly button that can figure out what do you need and where do you need to go. Whereas, kind of when you look at groups like Bridge to History and Roll Call and Beyond the Call, Liberty Jump Team, all of these groups that, we work very closely with Holidays and Heroes, Air Power Foundation. We kind of do the other more social, and a lot of that is, and I know some of those groups also will help with funding and that sort of thing. But really, we're carrying on the mission of helping people remember the people that are involved, the veterans, the actively serving. How do we serve them in ways that the other groups aren't. It's just we all work together. We are not competing with each other. We're trying to, people that in other organizations meet a veteran, they say, oh, you got to go to Roll Call. I see somebody with a kid that's middle school and they have a yearning for history. I say, you need to look at Bridge to History. And it's just kind of how we integrate and use one another to just keep taking care of folks. And really that's what it's about, not competition, but let's work together and let's complement one another.
and that's an important part about nonprofits. So many times, not so many times, but there are those nonprofits where it's built around a person, whoever founded it or something, and they just have a death grip on it, and they don't get out and network. They don't, this is the way you come to our place, or something like that. But with Roll Call and even with our podcast, Mary and I both like to network with all these other organizations because they do what they do and they do it well. And we have been around enough organizations that we know the very good ones, and then there's a few bad apples in every bunch. But we know so many different organizations. We know the leadership, and even making donations to organizations. There's just some that are just stellar, and that any money that somebody donates is going right where that organization says it goes to. And you're talking about Holidays and Heroes. That's one of my favorite organizations. This past Saturday, we had the bringing in the gathering of the gifts. Carrie and Bob Ortigal, their beautiful home over by the base, right across from Shady Oaks. They have a kind of a social event for all the donors, bringing packages that the next day will go to NASGRB, to our military families. Just a beautiful time of people coming together, really relaxing and enjoying, being together for the holidays and bringing the gifts. And whenever we say bring the gifts, each sponsor kind of adopts a family, and they have a wish list. And you see some of these tables that are set up the next day, there may be 20 presents under there. So uh, we served over 160 families on Sunday at the giving of the gifts. Had it at VR 59, a big hangar at the base, and volunteers came in there early and set everything up. Uh, just a beautiful time. The kids are the focus of the whole morning and afternoon. Santa's there. They've got games to play. This year it was real overcast, so Santa didn't get to skydive in like he usually does. But that was on Sunday. On I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday, just a day or two afterwards. Carrie said, "Hey, we're going to go. We've got some other people that have donated money, and we're going to go buy gifts for Fleet and Family Services because they've got a little room where families can go in and pick out some gifts." And so there was about three or four people from Holidays and Heroes that were on the board, and myself. I was just going to go there for just a little bit to take some pictures, and ended up with a shopping cart. We had 5 or 6 shopping carts. Uh, Spent around $3,000. You can get a lot of stuff at Walmart for $3,000. We had a whole line of shopping carts, and they blocked off the row there, and the manager was there checking us out. Loaded all those up, took them out to NASJRB, and started putting them in the room. And then Carrie said, "How's the food pantry?" And they said, "Well, we're kind of low on perishables. We really need meat and everything like that." So Carrie said, "I'm going to Sam's and get some meat." And so I said, "Well, I'm going to Sam's too." So we shopped there, got about $800 worth of hamburger meat, bacon, and all the perishables they needed. And Carrie took it back to the base, and she showed me a before picture of the refrigerator. It was bare, like old Mother Hubbard. The cupboard was bare, and then the refrigerator was full after that. So,
Yeah.
that's just an example of somebody.
Yeah, we did a food drive for the pantry, but it was the non-perishables. So
Right.
6 they picked up at the roll call lunch. They picked up a truckload of non-perishables, and then a truck from one of the VFWs met them at Birchman since they couldn't get out to Willow Park. By the time they would be leaving, they met them at Birchman, and I don't know if they were able to put all the stuff in one truck or if they had to follow them back to base to unload. But the non-perishables, hopefully they had plenty. But the perishables is always a problem because folks can't really donate. So when we do get cash donations that come into roll call when we do the food drive, then usually what I have done in the past was meet up with Blaine at the commissary and go buy those perishables, because you're right. That's one of the things that you just can't do in a food drive because there's no way to keep it refrigerated. So it's important to make sure that you have that as well.
And you're better at talking about why there's a need. A lot of these are reservists, and they have some of the families of the lower enlisted uh, men and women that are in the reserves. They have some cash flow problems. So,
And that's the thing, is a lot of folks go, well, how can our military men and women be struggling? Why do they need a food pantry? Why do they need a toy drive? Well, you have to remember that this is a joint reserve base. So on the base, you do have active duty. The 301st has an active duty unit assigned with them. And the Navy has a lot of active duty people. There are active duty people all filtered throughout there. But the vast majority of the people that serve at NASJRB are reservists and a small contingent of guardsmen. And so when you think about those folks are only guaranteed 39 days a year. They're a 2-week annual tour and they're 1 weekend a month. That's all that they have guaranteed to them. So they may be going to school. They may be single parents. They may be, I had one senior airman, E4, that was in my squadron, and he lived in Houston with his family, his mom, his dad, and his sister. And his mom was going blind, and his dad was having trouble working because he had to take care of the mom. And so this young senior, he's 21, 22 years old. He's helping to take care of his family, his sister, who was younger than him, still in high school, and his parents, and trying to take care of that on how expensive it is to live in Houston. He was struggling to make that happen. And so you don't know what's going on in the life of these folks. Not everybody is out there making a killing. Not everybody has a ton of money. And some of these young people are just really struggling to get by. If their civilian jobs don't pay much, they might make $10 or $15 an hour even, but at 40 hours a week, do the math. That's not a lot of money. And they're struggling. So that is the reason why that pantry is so important. And that is the reason why these drives are important, and holidays and heroes are important. It really is. I remember back in the early 90s when my kids were on reduced price lunches. I made $25,000 a year raising a family of 4, single mom. And and when they brought this box of stuff to my house, I was like, no, you need to give that to somebody who needs it. And they're like, no, you need it. And it was just one of those things. But ever since then, I always make sure that I do everything that I can to give back, because I know how many years I struggled to get by. And I taught aerobics just to pay the grocery bill. And so my regular check paid for all my bills, but I couldn't buy groceries unless I taught, 6 hours a week or whatever at the local fitness connection, and got paid to teach aerobics. So you do what you have to do, but not everybody can make it by without a little bit of help. So
Yeah, and to see people like Carrie, she's got such a heart and a passion. Whenever we were at Sam's, I told her, I said, Carrie, you remind me so much of my mother, because my mother was, we didn't have a lot, but when my mama knew of a need, I don't know how she got the money or where it came from, and Daddy never complained that I heard of about her giving stuff. But she'd hear about a family that needed food, and we'd go buy food, and then we'd go up there at night and have. Back then, we didn't have little plastic bags. We had great big paper
right,
sacks, and
right.
there would be 3 or 4 paper sacks. She'd put them on the door. Sometimes people never knew where that came from, but the other day, they weren't just buying for the people at the base, but there had been a person at the base affiliated with the military, and his sister had just gotten murdered, uh, left 4 children,
Mm.
and we had their ages and stuff. And there was another donation that was used to get a Christmas that is going to be tough for those kids without a mama.
Yeah.
But Holidays and Heroes was on top of it, and they got those gifts too to make a difference in a hurting family. So just incredible people out there, and these are just a few of the organizations that we are affiliated with that do so much good for our military and for our veterans and first responders. So.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I know that if people haven't been out on Facebook and seen the $5,000 a day, the 12 days of giving that Shields is doing. So the Shields in the colony, and I've heard about how great that is, but I don't go to North Dallas that often. My son lives up there, so once in a while I'm up there. But in the colony, they have a Shields sporting goods store, and they started a few days ago the 12 days of giving, and $5,000 a day. So if you go find Shields, SCHEEL apostrophe S, and you find their thing, then you can nominate a nonprofit to get that 5,000. And we heard about it. Jeff was our director of fundraising, and now he does other stuff, but he's always still involved. He sent it all to us, and we all, of course, sent it out. And we were fortunate that we were selected as the very first day. So day one, we were selected as one of the recipients. So $5,000 a day they're giving out for 12 days. That's amazing for an organization to do that. So if you're out in that area, go shop there. But secondly, if there's a nonprofit that you really, really think is deserving and you want to nominate them, go find that Facebook post and nominate them, because that makes a huge difference. We're fortunate. We have 1,700 people. When we send out a blast to our folks, text or email, we're affecting a lot of people, and they can get on there and go, make comments. And some of the comments are really awesome that came in, like from Debbie Thomas, Al Chatwin's daughter. It just, touches your heart when you read those comments. And that's what meant a lot to me, was reading the comments about why they were nominating Roll Call. But go out there and nominate them, nominate their Power Foundation, who does so much for the base. Nominate Holidays and Heroes, who takes care of those families. Nominate these organizations that you know of, Beyond the Call, Bridge to History, any of these guys that really touches you. Terry Burgess, Gold Star
Parents Retreat.
I mean, golly, you want to talk about something that really affects some folks, is do something special for those Gold Star parents, because every year especially is hard at the holidays. But any of them, go nominate those. And we are really blessed because we've had all those people on our show. So if you want to know more about them, you can go out there and you can find that podcast and listen to it, learn about that organization. And then if you feel so moved, then whether it's through asking for them to be one of the lucky recipients from Shields, again, if you're out in that area, go shop there. Or if you just are at that time of the year and you've got some year-end giving you need to figure out what to do with, then pick one of the organizations. Roll Call always feels blessed to get the donations, but any of these groups are very worthy, and I know them, and I know that they don't have, you look at the percentage of $1 that goes to administrative costs in a lot of groups, it's pretty high. But you look at any of these groups that I've been talking about, and none of them have paid staff, and none of them have, it's not, that's just not what the money goes to. The money goes to the mission of the organization. None of us get paid to do what we do. So we do it because of the love that we have and the desire to help other people. So go take a look at them. And if you want more information, we do an hour podcast with these folks. You get a lot of information about hearing their own words right from the organization.
And Terry is on here. It said, "Oh, thank you." And, I'm so honored and blessed to be able to go to the Gold Star Parents Retreat every year and spend a weekend with these Gold Star parents and document through pictures and video what happens there. And it's just an incredible time of love, all kinds of emotions, but it's a happy time when these parents can get together and they all have something in common. They've all lost a child wearing the cloth of our nation. And they do a great job at reaching out to parents across the United States. Also, Freedom Mobility Foundation, we had Carla Best on, the recipient. She's going to be the recipient at the Armed Forces Bowl on the 27th of a Subaru that she needs. It's all-wheel drive. It's got room for all her sled hockey equipment. She's a Army veteran, an amputee that hit an IED, and it's going to be a good time at the Armed Forces Bowl. I went to a meeting where they do a minute-by-minute deal about the Armed Forces Bowl with all the different entities, and General Pottinger and I were able to go see where the car is going to be placed, and She's excited. She's going to bring her dad here. She'll be at the Armed Forces Bowl luncheon. There's still tickets available at the Armed Forces Bowl luncheon, and that is going to be at the Omni Hotel downtown Fort Worth. Uh, Whenever Oklahoma got selected to be in the game against Navy, their block of tickets went immediately. They had, and then Navy was playing Army, so they didn't put their block out until Sunday. So their block's gone. There's not any more free tickets for veterans. It's all, even the big suite that holds hundreds of people on the west side of the stadium. It's all sold out. So
yeah, that's great.
It's going to be a good game.
When Navy won, I text both the previous skipper and the current skipper to congratulate them. But no one saw that coming. You thought that it would be either a really close game or Army would crush them based on their records and everything. But Navy wanted it more. And man, I'll tell you, great game. And the Armed Forces Bowl is going to be a great game.
Cameron McNutt, she said, we love the Air Power Foundation, Holidays for Heroes, and Fort Worth Air Power Council. She does a lot of work for all those organizations. She's going to be the executive assistant. I think, I don't know if that's her correct title, for the Fort Worth Air Power Council, taking Ann Pottinger's place. So we look forward to having her help us on the council. Richard Harden, he's a friend of ours from East Texas. Marine Corps Major Richard Harden. He's a good friend, and he's got a Model A Ford, and he's been driving it all around. So he's enjoying that. He's with Brothers Keepers, a great supporter of Brothers Keepers. So another good organization. And what we should do is to all these different organizations that get that money from that. What's the name of it? Okay, what we should do, the ones that we work with, we ought to all go together, go at the same time, and just go take them a plaque or something and tell them thank you from all the organizations.
That's a great idea. We need to definitely do that. That's very special.
And what I'll do afterwards, I'll go to their website and see who they've already donated to, and hopefully some of our other organizations that we work with have received that gift too, and then we can put out on our social media, hey, this is one of the organizations that you need to support. So there's just so many people that are in our life, like Chris. Yeah. Chris is everywhere. She's a great supporter of veterans and our military, and comes to roll call all the time. I see her every place. I don't know how she gets around, but
she's always in a great mood too, and she makes other people. She just has a way about her about making other people feel good.
And she's such a hard worker at doing all that stuff. So our friend Dwayne Lee, love all the organizations who help our veterans. And Dwayne's got the D-Day tour, and I don't have that up today, but he takes small groups over to Normandy, and it's a really great organization. Again, Nina, Todd, we appreciate all of you more than you guys will ever know. We appreciate you all too. I mean, it's just incredible the things that people do. Let's see, Cameron, I don't think there's any other military support organizations have won. Okay. So I'll go in there and list those organizations that we've talked about, and go in there and support them. And let's see if we can get some more money on this side of the Metroplex.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. There's a lot of great organizations that can use it. We talked about it a lot this year. This year was a pretty tough year for nonprofits to raise money, and hoping that as the president-elect said yesterday, that we are coming into a golden age, So hopefully that means that everybody will be finding themselves in a little better financial position in 2025. And maybe we can see some more donations coming into the nonprofits, because that's really how the work gets done. The nonprofits don't, they're not able to go out there and make money through the traditional route. The only way that we operate as a nonprofit, any nonprofit operates, is through the generous donations of those folks around us. Like if you need a used car and you want to get one that you won't get taken advantage of, go see Jeff Owings. He's a longtime roll call supporter at Owings Auto. And folks like that continuously are out there supporting organizations like ours and others. Mike Reppert, huge donor last year for us, really set us on the path that we needed to be on with his donation last year, because we knew that our expenses were about to go up with the transition and the move and everything. So every little bit helps. So go out there and really support these folks that support us and support other nonprofits, because we know we're not the only one that some of these groups support. And it's just important. We recently picked up a sponsorship from Berkshire's. So what a neat relationship we have with them, that we not only did they give us a cash donation, and we have a Berkshire, and it's so sad that the Berkshires here in Bembrook closed, because I used to love to go over there. But the Berkshires in Aledo or Willow Park is still, of course, open. Hudson Oaks, whatever it's called, right there off of 20. But they also do a program where they take veterans to DC, like an honor flight, but like they say, it's better. It's better than the honor flight, because and Carlisle Hayes went with them, and he said it was fabulous. And he's been on both, and he said it was absolutely fabulous. And so a couple of the ladies from the Berkshires organization came up and attended a luncheon. They visited with our veterans, loved what we were doing. And of course, we came by that relationship through our relationship with Judy, who works as one of the folks at yep, they are out of Tyler, and that's where Carlisle took off from with them. Awesome people. And we'd love to start a roll call down there, Richard, but we seem to be getting some pushback from a group down there. But we got a couple of guys that want to start one, so maybe you can help us push that. But anyway, I don't remember where I was going, but Judy with the Rangers, she works for the Rangers. She introduced me to Ann from Berkshire's, and that is how that relationship got started. So everything is about relationships and that networking you talked about, Rick, and getting to know folks. So we're hoping that we can continue to network with folks and help our organization and other organizations, as we are there to help one another. But yeah, Berkshire's is it is just too bad that we don't have more of them, and so many of them have shut down.
Yeah, and Cameron, she said the HEB Operations Appreciation is a wonderful supporter of our military, and there's more of those HEBs coming into the Metroplex.
A lot of them.
And of course, Central Market's part of HEB. So we've had a Central Market for a while, but there's HEB in Burleson. There's another one out in Hudson Oaks, right there by Weatherford. Just a lot of these corporations are really taking care of our military. Just like I said, at Hilly Subaru, they're donating that Subaru for Carla at the Armed Forces Bowl game, and just a multitude of organizations. And we love them. We enjoy their support, because that's what keeps our veterans supported, our military supported, and is able to fund organizations like Roll Call, and where we can have a luncheon, because it's more than just a luncheon. It's not just a one-shot deal every month. Every day there's something going on where veterans are reaching out to the people in Roll Call, and it's not just about the monetary gifts, but we have so many great people that come to serve our veterans, that work the desk and welcome them, and just think about uh, the young men that come and do the honor guard. They were there last week. They posted the colors, and then they put on aprons and served our veterans. The All Saints School, they had their choir there, sang a lot of great Christmas songs, and I did plant the seed in some of their minds, because I took a picture afterwards. And my next door neighbor teaches photography at All Saints. I said, "How many of you have Miss Moore?" And several of them raised their hand. "Will you tell Miss Moore that we need to get some of you here to take pictures with us?" Because we'd really like to do that too. That way we can get them around the veterans, and then help them with their photography class too. So
Yeah, and Hunter, their choir director, I sent him an email to thank him again, and he said the students were so impacted. I think he was surprised at how much the veterans in the program, the luncheon, because they got there in time to eat lunch first before they sang, and then to participate with the other, here are the other things that we did. But he said they were so impacted by it that he wants to come back again. He said it made a difference. But you talk about that. What else we do right now? We're working with the folks from Texas A&M Agri Life Extension. They have a wreath project that they're doing, and it's called Wreaths and Wellness for Warriors. So they had a luncheon on Thursday, and they had these wreaths, 20 wreaths that were part of their program that the folks in their program created. And then they've got a wellness basket. And I went through, and because of our relationship with the Tarrant County folks in Daiquiri, who works at the county, she sent our information to Krista with this organization and said, "Hey, do you have 20 vets?" And so I went through the roster and I picked out 20 of our vets and sent them to her. And I think she started delivering them yesterday, or she's starting today. Her and her group are going to deliver those 20 wreaths and the wellness basket to these veterans. And what a neat thing for them to get, just complete strangers that want to do something special for them. And so that, it is more than a lunch. But I always tell people, if you are interested in sponsoring us, but you just don't really know and you're not sure what we do, the best way to learn is to come to a lunch. And our next lunch is January 24th, fourth Friday. So again, when we get to the beginning of the year, we go back to the fourth Friday of every month. And Carl Monger from the Gallant Few will be our speaker, and we'll have our program. So if you're thinking about sponsoring Roll Call, you just want to learn more, the best way to do that is join us for a lunch. So get a hold of us at info@roll-call.org, and we'll be happy to help you. And you can go on about the somewhere around the 14th or 15th of January, I suspect. The RSVP link will open at our website, and you can RSVP right there.
it's the hottest ticket in town. So when it comes out, you better go in there and make those reservations.
It goes fast. Yep.
Well, Cameron said, "Thank you for all you do, Rick and Mary. You're both superstars. Congratulations to Roll Call, such a worthy organization." Cameron, thank you for all you do, and it's great to have these other organizations that work so closely with each other. Like Holidays and Heroes, Air Power Foundation, the Fort Worth Air Power Council, Freedom Mobility Foundation, Gold Star Parents Retreat, and the Medal of Honor Museum. That's going to be something exciting this year, is to have that museum open. And I don't know the exact day, but it's on National Medal.
29th.
Okay. I saw Chris Cassidy.
It's March. Might not be the 20th. Might be the 24th. I don't remember, but it's
Chris,
in March.
Chris Cassidy was at the Giving of the Gifts social event the other night at Carrie and Bob's house, and it's always good to see him. He's got an incredible story about how he ended up going into the Navy to become an astronaut, to become a SEAL, then an astronaut, and just incredible story because it was just kind of accidental the way he got in. It wasn't like uh, we just need to have him on sometime to tell that story. So this next year, we said at the first of the podcast, Mary and I are going to take off the next 2 weeks, Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. We'll be back on January the 7th, 2025. But there's some interesting people that we'll have next year. We want to have the new base skipper. Well, he's been here a year or so. So we've talked to him about having him on. We need to get Chris Cassidy on, but we also have a lot of veterans that we need to talk to. So just send us you can send it to our my email at cowtown@usa.net, and we'll see if we can get you on the program. So just a lot of things going on, and we are so honored to do this podcast. It just happened 2.5 years ago, and who knew that we'd be about 120 episodes into it and talk to some great people, a lot of great people.
So share it with your friends. Tell them to come check us out. And if you can't watch live, Rick's going to give you the way to see it or watch it when you can't watch it live.
Yeah, and then you can go to our YouTube channel, The Voice of Heroes. And if you go there, if you can just subscribe to that channel, that helps us. Like what you see. And most of our podcasts, there's a few of the early on podcasts that aren't on there, but most of our other podcasts are on there, so you can watch your favorite veteran or organization, watch their podcasts. So, Mary, it's been great to share this platform with you the last 2.5 years, and we look forward to our 3rd year.
Woohoo.
And a lot of great things happening in the veteran, military, and first responders community, and we're so thankful for all the supporters that support those organizations and that support our veterans and our military. So,
amen.
We wish everybody a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and a Happy New Year. And we will see you next year on Hometown Heroes.